There will be people in your life that don't want you to know what your boundaries are or how to enforce them because they benefit from you having none at all. That's why in this video, I'm going to teach you how to identify what your boundaries are, how to express and reinforce them, and I'm also going to give you a script that you can use if they are overstepped or violated. Now, let's get into it. What's up, everyone? My name is Lanz MacDonald. Welcome back to another video. Please be sure to show your support by liking, commenting, and subscribing because it really helps me out. So to start off, it's important to know why having boundaries is important. When you have healthy boundaries in a relationship, it establishes a sense of mutual respect and autonomy for both individuals. And without this respect, an uneven dynamic occurs where one person holds all of the power and influence over the other. And with almost 100% certainty, this will directly lead to you feeling major feelings of resentment towards your partner because you no longer feel like an equal in the relationship, where your viewpoints, your sense of security, and your boundaries are being respected. When you're a human doormat and you allow someone to just walk all over you, you're not only telling that person that they can treat you however they please with zero consequence, but you're also teaching them that you'd rather be mistreated and neglected by them than not have them in your life at all. In contrast, when you are confident and you have set clear and consistent boundaries, you're telling your partner, I love you and what you add to my life, but if you mistreat or violate the standard of treatment I expect, I will leave because above all, my peace and self-worth are paramount. So I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this and what to say. And once you establish this in your most intimate relationship, you're going to see how this positively affects all the other relationships in your life as well, because it follows the same principle and script. First and foremost, the reason that so many of us struggle to establish boundaries in our closest relationships is because we have this fear of hurting our partner or seeming selfish. And so many of us make the mistake of overextending ourselves and overcompensating while simultaneously neglecting our own feelings and desires, because some part of us thinks that our partner is going to see this and appreciate us for it. But that's never the reality. Instead, they get used to the self-sacrificing behavior that you've set, that becomes their norm, and now you feel perpetually exhausted and resentful towards them. Then, when you inevitably hit a wall with that internal struggle of feeling used and underappreciated, you may finally try to say no to something, and they are either going to get upset, ice you out, or accuse you of pulling back on your effort or not caring. And one of the rudest awakenings with this is realizing that you've actually been enabling and causing a lot of what has happened here because of your people-pleasing behavior. An example from my past experiences when I had zero boundaries in my past relationships were things like when I would stay up way past my bedtime because they wanted to stay up talking, or I would pick up their phone calls at all hours of the day, regardless of what I was doing. I would even let them belittle and speak down to me when they were upset or we were having a disagreement. So without realizing it, I was allowing past partners to violate my boundaries regarding my health, well-being, and my time. And the reason I say that it was without realizing it is because oftentimes these things are quite insidious. They start out with small sacrifices that you're making because you want things to go smoothly, or you tell yourself that all relationships require some level of compromise, until one day it gets so intense and you start to realize, okay, there's actually only one of us in this dynamic that seems to be making most, if not all, of the sacrifices here. So the scary but empowering thing that I learned is that it's actually up to no one but us to make a change in our lives. Here are the practical steps and a script that you can use to reinforce and establish healthy boundaries. First, figure out what your boundaries actually are. If you don't know what they are, you're not going to know what to enforce, why that particular thing really matters to you, and how to remain consistent in setting those expectations. In order to figure this out, determine what you envision being your healthiest and happiest relationship. How do you treat others and expect them to treat you? Do you have a specific routine that's really important to your well-being, like your daily workout routine, or spending time with friends, or spending some time alone to recharge? Do you have a standard for how you have disagreements, like not calling each other names or raising your voice? If they're visiting you, how do you expect them to respect your living space, like helping with dishes and keeping the house clean? Or maybe your boundaries are around what you deem to be inappropriate or flirtatious behavior behavior, whether that's in person or on social media. So now that you've figured out what your boundaries are, it's important that you learn how to communicate them clearly, assertively, and consistently. Human beings will always default to self-serving behavior if they don't understand the clear consequences attached to their actions. And we also can't expect our partners to be mind readers, so we need to ensure that we're clearly communicating this to them. As a simple formula, a boundary is an expectation plus a consequence. So your partner needs to know what your expectation of treatment is, and if this is violated 10 times out of 10, the consequence will be X. So let's get into a common scenario. Let's say that your boundary is that when you get on a phone call with your partner and a disagreement happens, neither of you are allowed to abruptly hang up out of rage. That is the expectation. Now, your partner also needs to know what the clear consequence is if this happens. So here is a 3-step script that you can use if your boundary is violated. First, clearly restate your boundary and how that overstepping made you feel in a calm but assertive tone. The reason I add that you need to include how it made you feel is because your partner cannot invalidate your personal emotions. And even if it was not their intention to make you feel a certain way, it doesn't change the effect and outcome that their actions have caused. So you could say something like, when you suddenly hang up on me when we're having a disagreement, it makes me feel shut down, disrespected, and ignored. Next, as hard as it may be in the moment, you also need to validate how your partner may be feeling, because what that's going to do is take them out of that defensive and combative position. An example being, I recognize that you may be feeling really overwhelmed from that conversation, and you have the right to take some time to yourself to collect your thoughts and breathe. Then, reinforce your boundary as an expectation and a consequence. Expectation. However, I expect that if you're feeling overwhelmed and need to take some time to be alone, you need to communicate that to me. Take the time you need and call back when you're ready to have a conversation. Then you would follow that expectation with a consequence, and it could sound something like this. When you abruptly hang up on me with no explanation and give me the silent treatment, I will not chase you or call you. And if this continues to happen after I've explained to you that this hurts me, I will need to reevaluate this relationship because this is not the standard of respect or communication that I have set for myself. With this script, you're firmly but fairly establishing your boundary by explaining how their actions made you feel, validating their perspective, and clearly stating what the expectation and consequence will be if this boundary is violated in the future. The hardest part about this? You need to stand on business. If you state a consequence and then do the direct opposite, like call them 10 times and chase them after they've hung up on you, or allow them to continue to make a mess of your space when they visit, or allow them to belittle you and call you names when you're in a disagreement, your partner is going to call your bluff and continue to violate your boundaries because they don't think you're serious about what you've said and that you're willing to act accordingly. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Do not give anyone in your life permission to make you feel small, unworthy of respect, or that you should settle for less. In fact, you will be respected 100 times more by your partner when they realize that they can't just walk all over you and get what they want. You know your worth, you know you're a high-value person that brings a lot to the table, and as a result, you have a non-negotiable standard for how you expect to be treated. And if this doesn't happen, then you're gonna spend this time alone and you're gonna wait to find someone that actually deserves it. I want each of you to feel empowered to learn this because it is a practice of self-respect, confidence, and a commitment to only accepting a thriving and healthy relationship. That's all I have for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts down below, and also feel free to leave any suggestions for topics you want to discuss in the future. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you next video. Bye!